day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Monday, April 7th, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
Inside my own brain, I'm Tom Merritt.
From deep in the heart of Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Daily Tech News Show Live is made possible by you. Thank you, Kirk Stephenson, Miranda Janelle, that Charlie dude, and two brand new patrons, 90210. I think I know where you are. And Chris, welcome new patrons.
Love it. Or maybe they just like Beverly Hills.
Maybe they do. Yeah.
That's where they want to be.
That's where they want to be. Can you be my Bibbly Hills?
Welcome to DTNS Live, everyone. This is the show where we discuss the tech news to help us all understand it a little bit better. Now, I would ask everyone how they're doing, but Tom Merritt, I'm most worried about you. How's the jet lag?
Don't be worried. Don't be worried. Yeah, I'm still a little bit on the wrong time zone, but it's getting better. I'm slowly adjusting to being back in the Pacific time zone. For anybody who didn't catch it, I was gone for 2 weeks. Did you notice?
Yeah.
We were traveling in Japan with my wife's sister's family. Her husband studied abroad in Japan, so he wanted to show his two girls Japan. So we were hanging out with a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, hunting Pokemon, going to Pokemon centers, Hello Kitty cafes. It was awesome. It was a really good time.
Tom, I have to ask you one question. Because anytime that I've traveled abroad, there's always one kind of taste or flavor that you don't realize is just a part of American life that does not exist in all the cornucopia of the exotic stuff that you ate. Is there anything that you showed back up to the States and you're like, I gotta eat this?
It's the same thing every time. Good drip coffee. Almost impossible to find. I did find a vendor who was using Chemex pots and made a very good cup of coffee at this like cherry blossom festival. But man, there's nothing like just getting that good old American drip coffee.
Drip coffee, a little half and half.
No, half and half for me. I'll take it black as midnight on a moonless night myself. But.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's yeah. That surprises me kind of that it would be so hard to find in Japan because you can find everything there, right?
Europe, everywhere. It's always hard to find like the really good drip coffee, and even when you find it, it's like this is good. It's not. There's something different though.
Something
I don't
different.
know what it is. Yeah.
Maybe
it's the water.
There is. Americans do have a drip coffee thing. Not everybody.
Maybe it's the fluoride that just makes it taste good.
That really kicks it to the next level.
Like
yeah.
It tastes like
waking
up in the
drink
morning.
it, but I would rather just have a freaking drip from.
Yeah, that's the
I love
thing.
an Americano,
Everything's
especially
so
nice
espresso based in Europe.
Yeah.
Well, we are, contrary to our last couple of minutes, we're here to talk about tech news. So let's get right into it with the quick hits.
A UK court has, in my opinion, reasonably ordered that the existence of a secret surveillance court case involving Apple can be made public without jeopardizing the security of the United Kingdom. This is the case that centers on a UK request for Apple to grant access when asked to encrypted iCloud data. In response, Apple removed its advanced data protection feature in the UK and has reiterated that it has never built and will never create a backdoor, but they are prohibited from talking about the request. However, they can now admit that they're filing a counter case. So, yay.
Good to know.
The information sources report that OpenAI is exploring the acquisition of IO Products, that's the startup, co-founded by former Apple design chief Jony Ive and also OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. The company, IO Products is developing AI-powered devices, including a reported screenless phone, although some sources say that this is not happening, and various other AI-driven household products.
It's almost like that was the plan from the beginning.
One would think.
WhatsApp is testing an advanced chat privacy feature for both iOS and Android that lets users prevent you from exporting their entire chat history or doing things like automatically saving media, like photos and videos, It applies to single and group chats. However, you can still forward a message, so they can't stop you from doing that. You could also screenshot anything, right? So they can't stop you. You could take a Polaroid picture, for goodness sake. But the feature can disable Meta AI within chats and notify all group members when it's enabled, and it just makes it a little harder to export that stuff.
Eufy's new E15 and E18 robot lawn mowers utilize smart camera-based navigation rather than GPS or boundary wires, which is meant to simplify setup and improve mowing accuracy. The E15 covers up to 800 square meters. The E18 handles up to 1,200 square meters with features like app control, adjustable cutting height, rain detection, and overall what the company says is quiet operation. Although they don't eliminate all manual trimming, Engadget highlights them as reliable, tech-forward solutions for automated lawn care, starting at $1,599.
First, they came for the iRobot vacuums.
We said nothing.
Now they come for the lawnmowers. BYD announced it's going to debut its new flagship models, the Han L sedan and the Tang L SUV, at an event on April 9th. Both vehicles are equipped with a 1,000-volt high-voltage platform that can accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in just more than 2 seconds and provide 400 kilometers of range with only 5 minutes of ultra-fast charging. This is those that they talked about before. So April 9th is the official unveiling. The Han L is priced at 270,000 yuan. That's about $37,300. The Tang L starts at 360,000. That's about 49,700 US dollars.
Google is rolling out multimodal capabilities to its AI mode so that it can see and analyze images to provide detailed and contextually relevant responses. This combines Gemini AI with Google Lens image recognition, and the update is available in the Google app for Android and iOS, previously exclusive to Google One AI Premium subscribers in the US. Wired has a report out today called "Bluesky Can't Take a Joke." One of those headlines that I was like, what's this about? Had to click on it. So the story is actually about how one Bluesky user who lives in California posted that she was screaming, crying, and throwing up after her husband visited a Walgreens pharmacy while he was on a business trip in Ohio in February, where prices were cheaper there at that store than they would be in California Walgreens. Now, some Bluesky users responded that she was exaggerating. How could she be this upset? She's crying and screaming and throwing up about this? Except that she was referencing a well-known internet meme about going overboard about relatively mundane things. I think we all here have hung out on the internet long enough to know that this happens. This definitely happens. I did not realize how much an internet meme. I mean, I for sure know because I talk to family and friends all the time. You know, people will be like, "What? Why is that funny?" And I go, "Oh, well, here's the reference, right?" Or on the flip side, I'll be like, "I don't get I don't know why that's funny." Oh, here's where this started. Like the know your meme kind of stuff around the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to just sort of poll the group here today to see, do you feel like depending on where you're hanging out on the internet, you have to like temper your jokes?
Oh, yes. Everywhere. Every single place on the internet. I feel that way. I don't know about the rest of you.
It's not so much tempering for me. It's just kind of recalibrating and focusing the jokes that I do have for that audience. So if it's something to do with like home renovation, most people wouldn't get like the jokes. But like if there's that one person or the friends I have that are like into home renovation stuff, they would totally get it, and I would focus it at them. But
I don't think that's really the issue here is whether you're going to get the home renovation joke or not. It's whether someone's going to be offended because your joke touched a nerve.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's what I'm saying. I recalibrate based on who the people I know on that platform.
Yeah, target audience. Yeah.
I will say that over exaggerating is not exclusively an internet thing, and if I read that one more time, I'll kill myself.
Hey, now Justin, that's not funny.
You know what, Justin? It seems like you're exaggerating a little bit. Are you really gonna kill yourself?
No.
One more
That was just
time?
a goof 'em up here for
Oh,
everybody
I
at
see.
home.
We're not on
That was
X
so
right now,
funny.
so I didn't
I'm
get it.
dead. I'm
Yeah.
actually not dead.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Or-
I do
mean,
think
there
that
are so many superlatives, right? It's like something is iconic. And I'm like, is it? But it's like that's just internet speak, you know?
or goat. You know, like a
Or
goat. Like
goats,
now people will be like, "Oh, these are the goats of the music industry," and it's like, no, the existence of the greatest of all time necessitates that there can be only one. But then it kind of became commoditized
Well,
by way of
also-
internet speak.
I mean, I don't know. A couple years ago, when someone started being like, "Mother, you're my mom," I'm like, "What? What's happening there?"
Oh,
It
yeah.
just means like I respect you.
Yeah.
You know, this stuff crops up all the time. It comes and goes. It ebbs and
It's the
flows.
evolution of language, you know.
It totally is. It totally is.
Yeah,
But
it is. It
it's-
is the
I do. I often chuckle. Well, I chuckle most of the time. Sometimes it's disturbing when someone will post something and it's very clearly a joke that is an inside joke, but enough people know about it that they'll get it. But then you've got like a barrage of comments of people being like, "Why would you say something like that?"
Yeah.
Or "I'm very concerned. Are you okay?" You know, that kind of stuff. And it's just we all exist in different little bubbles.
I don't know that this is a blue sky problem specifically. Maybe it over indexes on the people who do this. But when you have that many people, millions of people out there, there's going to be a small percentage of them who just don't understand that you're joking anytime you post anything. So I'll be honest, I post about 10% of what I used to post 20 years ago because I think about who might have a reaction to it, and is it worth my time to deal with that reaction to post this or not?
Right.
So
And
much of this is-
sometimes it's not even that you're trying to be a comedian. It's just that you're
Yeah,
referencing
right.
something that people they don't know the original reference, and so it's confusing.
Yeah, so much of this is also just the splintering of the internet that in a world where there was critical mass, you could make a joke and then assume that there were enough people there that would get it and that they would laugh at it. And even if a few people were tone deaf, you didn't care because you felt like it was going to be well received in a large enough audience. Where we're at now, and like the reason why this is even a story is because Bluesky is a relatively speaking for the internet, a smaller community. And so the juice is not worth the squeeze. And so therefore it became novel for somebody to be like, oh, nobody got my I'm screaming and crying and throwing up joke. And now that is something that is odd. I want to write a blog post about it because it is crazy. But we are only splintering further. If anything, we are only ever hunting for the place where we get more of the people that will understand us, which is why the Discords and the group chat communities have become so big over the last 10 years.
And it's weird because in some instances, people will turn around and take that understanding and then act somewhat indignant at the original comment as a way to poke fun at the original comment, which is something I see a lot on Reddit. And at that point,
Yeah,
it just
there are
starts
many
going to
levels
big-
to this.
Yes.
You have the person who makes the joke. You have the people who say, well, that was inappropriate of you because they don't get the original joke reference. Then you have the people who get the reference but pretend that they don't.
Yes.
To confuse everybody. And that's where you end up getting, a bunch of people fighting, 50 comments down.
This is all mission creep from defending against people who would say things that were offensive to most people on purpose and then go, I was just joking as a defense. And so people are like, hey, it's not a defense to be just joking. And now that applies to everything. If I don't get your joke, now it's offensive. It's like, well, no, not getting my joke doesn't make it offensive. It's there are gradations along the way.
Sure. Yeah.
I do find it ironic that Bluesky, the reaction was to not totally agree with somebody who had a very strong emotional reaction, because it seems like Bluesky is a place where very strong emotional reactions are kind of the coin of the realm.
Yeah.
I will say I've definitely been on the when I understand screaming, crying, and throwing up. I get that. But when someone is just like, I'm screaming because like something sort of interesting happened, I'm like, okay, are we gonna scream every time? I
Or
know
you
what you're
recognize
doing. I know
something.
what you're doing. I know you're not actually screaming out into the void right now, but yeah.
I'm just going to respond
Like-
to everything with skull emojis from now on.
Yeah, I know. I would say like
another
I'm
one.
screaming is an internet meme synonym to the like Leo pointing meme. Like I'm screaming is often like, oh, I recognized a reference in something, or
Yeah,
somebody
this
said
moved the needle
Leo
slightly
pointing, of
for
course,
me.
meaning Leonardo da Vinci in the...
Yes,
yeah, the birth
right.
of man. That's what
birth
that's
of
what
man.
I
The
mean
ceiling.
by
Right,
Leo
yeah.
pointing.
But
Yeah.
if you don't get that, I don't even know what to do with any of you.
I'm dead.
Yeah, then I'm gonna kill
Skull
myself.
emoji. All right, so
Not
Tom, I know the audience didn't notice, but you had been away for a couple of weeks. Just kidding. That's it. That's a Blue Sky joke. Haha. But
That's not funny, sir.
yeah, not funny at all. I'm screaming and throwing up. But but you were away from the show because you were doing a really fun thing on a family vacay. Sounds like you relied on ChatGPT a lot while you were out and about.
I didn't realize how many times I had consulted it until I was using it today for something else, and I had to scroll back to the thing I had last used it for that was work related, past 24 separate chats during the 2-week trip. And that doesn't count the things that I used it for in planning for the trip, like planning travel itineraries and stuff like that. I was traveling in Japan, so I used it for translations sometimes. I mostly relied on Google Translate, and I have a great segment on that coming up on Daily Tech News Show Briefing. But I would use ChatGPT sometimes to be like, what does this say? I was in a store one time and Google Translate really wasn't helping me. So I just took a picture of the shelves and said, are any of these ibuprofen? And ChatGPT was able to take that and say, why, yes, as a matter of fact, the following things that you're looking for are in fact ibuprofen. So you can choose those. And then I use Google Translate on it directly to kind of figure out some more things. I also used it one time when I was watching a TV show, and I was like, what am I looking at? It was a baseball game, but I didn't recognize the teams because I'm somewhat familiar with the professional teams, and it turned out that I was watching the high school baseball championships, and ChatGPT was able to recognize that. I used it for directions. So one time when I was in Kyoto, in the Kyoto station, I had directions to go to this rooftop garden, but I saw no signs, nothing on Google Maps, could not find anything to get to the rooftop garden. So I turned to the ChatGPT folks and said, how do I get to the rooftop garden in Kyoto? And it was able to put together some translations for me. The best one, though, was when we were having problems with our Android TV in the condo in Kawaguchiko, which is near Mount Fuji. The TV was default set to Thai. None of us spoke Thai, and it was in guest mode, which means you are locked out of the settings, so you can't go in.
Couldn't, put closed captioning on type thing.
Well, you can put closed captioning on, but you couldn't stop all the menus and everything from being in Thai. You couldn't go to the settings and change
It'd be hard
that.
to even get there. Mhm.
Right. You couldn't go to the TV settings. I could go into YouTube and I could change YouTube to be in English. And then the next time we turned on the TV, it would be back to Thai because the operating system's base situation was Thai. So I used it to try to figure out language settings. I used it to try to tell me, like, okay, what are the actual menus that I'm looking at here? And then one of our party who works in tech security was like, have you tried figuring out the admin password? And I'm like, duh, okay, let's do that. So we rebooted into guest mode. I had it tell me which model I was on and how to reboot into guest mode and give me the default passwords for admin mode. And turns out once I actually rebooted the television into admin mode, there was no prompt for a password. It just rebooted into admin mode.
No one's making a password for a TV. Get out of here.
I mean, if they were, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Exactly, right? Yeah.
It just went right into the admin mode, and so we were able to launch the admin mode, use Google Translate camera to tell what the time menus were until we found language, and then we could scroll to set it to English. And then boom, we got it back into an English language mode, put it back into guest mode. The English language stuck, and we were good to go.
You were off and running.
Yeah.
Well, because it wasn't just you and Eileen. It was, your brother and sister-in-law and 2 kids, and everybody wants
2
to
kids,
watch different stuff, right?
Oh, and then my brother-in-law's brother and sister and their partners as well. So yeah, we had a big group, and it was the combined brains. Will, the brother-in-law's brother, was the one who was like, why don't you try figuring out how to get into admin mode? I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then his sister's husband, Rob, who also works in IT, and I were tag teaming. He was using Google search. I was using ChatGPT, and we were bouncing off each other, getting into the admin mode. And that's what actually worked. But I was, it was very helpful in that respect. I would say 60% of the time, the information I got out of it was actionable immediately, or not actionable in the legal sense, but I could act on it immediately. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there was stuff where I'm like, it's just not helpful. Like I would try
or
hey,
I need to follow up on this. On my own.
My friend wants a Murakami gift, but Murakami stuff's really expensive. Do you have any ideas? And the ideas were like all the ideas that I would have already thought of. They weren't particularly.
Well, maybe you should take that as you were right. You were
I suppose you could.
Thank you for validating my opinion, ChatGPT.
You have good taste.
I would have to say most of the time, there was only one time that it actually lied to me. Most of the time it was just telling me stuff where I'm like, wow, I kind of already knew that. That's not helpful information. But we saw a foot chase when we were coming out of Ueno Station one night. And it was like the cops running after a guy and then grabbing him. And we're like, what was that about? So I went onto ChatGPT, and I was like, can you check the local news and see reports of a crime near Ueno Station? We saw police chase a man right past us and catch him. And ChatGPT very confidently told me about a Japan Times article about an incident. I asked for a translation. It gave me a translation of that article. And then I said, can I get a link? It gave me a link. The link didn't work. I said, have you invented these stories? And ChatGPT said, you're absolutely right to double check. After reviewing the searches, no official article confirming a police chase near Ueno Station has been found.
Well, isn't the whole thing with LLMs, at least like ChatGPTs and others, is that they're not great with up to the minute information?
They're getting better at that.
Yes,
that's why I asked for the link, because a lot of times you can get the link and you're like, oh, okay, this is reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's become a very, very capable search engine. So if you were just specifically searching, there's a little tab down there. You could just say, real-time crime updates of Ueno Station, and you would get a similar version of something that you would get on Google, but obviously AI transcribed. Tom, let me ask you this: what was the preferred method that you were using? Did you do advanced voice mode or any of the multimodal? Were you holding up the camera to show it what was happening, or were you taking pictures and submitting it in line?
Yeah, I was usually using it in mobile mode and multimodal, where I would either upload a picture or just show it the picture. The only time I actually played around with conversational mode was when we were sitting on the deck and we were just kind of asking it. What was the conversation starter there? But it just got silly because we all started asking it silly stuff. Oh, we wanted to know when the last time Mount Fuji erupted. And then we started asking it, is it going to erupt today? And it was like, no, I can't answer that. I don't know if it's going to erupt. And we're like, yeah, but if you had to guess, do you think it would erupt today? And we just
just tell us what you think.
But that was because we were in a quiet situation. A lot of times I was using it. I was in a situation where I didn't want to speak and hear things.
Yeah. That is one of the things that is a problem with voice mode, is that it is not great when there are more than one voices around, because it is it is optimized for you to have a more natural one-on-one conversation, and it fails when you're at a place where there are a lot of voices and it's like, ooh, sorry. Ooh, okay,
Especially when the voices range from 4 to 70 and they're all like, who are you talking to? And stuff like that.
Did you try using it to translate a conversation like you were having with
I didn't use ChatGPT for that. I did use Google Translate a couple of times, and this will be in the segment on briefing with Sean Hollister, but it's not very good at real-time conversation translation, but it was very good at, like, we're in a restaurant and we want to get across a particularly nuanced point that goes beyond pointing at the menu. A lot of restaurants just have Google Translate in the waiter's hand now, so that they're ready.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you try to use it as like a third-party translator? I've seen people do that.
Third party, like where it just sits and you talk.
Yeah,
I couldn't get it to work very well. I couldn't get Google Translate to work very well for that.
Oh, you could.
I didn't try ChatGPT for.
You didn't try ChatGPT. Oh, interesting.
No, yeah, I did make a Studio Ghibli photo of us on the train.
Oh, nice.
So
yeah,
that was part of that trend.
That's really cute.
And because I'd been making pictures of my dog right before that, it put my dog in the picture of us on the train, even though Seven wasn't.
That's
with us on
so
the train.
funny. Wow.
Well,
Was that in the same chat that it?
Yeah, it
put
was in the
dog
same chat. We had been making pictures
interesting.
of the dog with my niece, and so, it was funny.
doesn't really look like Seven, but you know what? I'm sure Seven appreciates being, part of the group.
Yeah,
if only remotely.
Definitely did. And now we're all back together and happy together.
Yay! Good stuff. Well, Tom, in your absence, we kept the ship afloat, and you were very much missed. But welcome back. During that time, in our subreddit, a lot of people have been submitting all sorts of show ideas, segment ideas. We appreciate them so much. If you want to contribute an idea, of course you can email us. But in our subreddit, you can also upvote other suggestions and have conversations amongst yourselves. It's a good time. Reddit.com/r/Daily Tech News Show. All right, Justin. Meta's Llama 4 got released over the weekend on a Saturday. A little strange, perhaps, for Meta.
Weird.
But what can you tell us about this LLM's latest version?
So, for those of you who are not keeping up with all this, we'll try to lay it out so everybody can understand. Meta, aka Facebook, their foray into the world of AI is Llama. Llama is, and save me the specifics on it, but for all intents and purposes, they have pushed into the general wider world of open source LLMs, although it is not strictly speaking open source. Still, a lot of open source LLM people are really, really excited by Llama. They're very excited by Meta, and to have a big company that really cares about pushing into this space. And so they were looking forward to Llama 4. In fact, the rumor was that it would be the big treat that everybody would be playing around with when LlamaCon, the first of its name, would go ahead and take place over the next few days. But it comes out Saturday. Odd. It should be the biggest thing that Meta does in AI. And despite the fact that it has some pretty good evaluations, it is not great in the hands of some of the folks that start playing around with it. So what I want to talk about is a website called Chatbot Arena. Chatbot Arena is very influential currently in the world of LLMs. And more specifically, it is a way that the community can get a sense of whether or not something is good or not. The way the Chatbot Arena works is that you go on, you have no idea what chatbot you're talking to. You can throw anything you want at it, and then you can rank it based on certain things. And Llama 4 did very well on Chatbot Arena. The only problem is that the version of Llama 4 that they had in Chatbot Arena was not released to the public. And the assumption is that it was designed to do well based on the questions and the kind of people that go on that website, and not necessarily built for the wider world. So the open source people were really bummed. Meta has a bit of a like, well, why did you have to do chicanery? Isn't the whole point of releasing a model like this to be, as good as it possibly can be? And it has left me with the feeling that evaluations of these models are really in a troubled place. We don't have a great sense of throw it into the machine and then it spits out a grade. And a lot of these companies, pretty much most of the major ones, when they release stuff, in my opinion, tend to be overfitting their models so they can do well on these tests without necessarily becoming better models themselves. And I don't know. I have a bit of I'm raising a red flag on this.
It's always the problem with benchmarks is that whenever you have a benchmark of any kind, companies are going to try to figure out how to game the benchmark, right? And so you have to have a system where that can be caught and dissuaded and all of that. And maybe this is just a good growing moment for Chatbot Arena to figure out how to do that. It's definitely weird that Meta released a version of Maverick for conversation on Chatbot Arena and then did not release that version to people. It released a plain vanilla version because clearly they have the version, so why not just release it to people? It did well on Chatbot. I don't understand what benefit they get from doing that. Why not just release the version that did well?
I don't know either. I mean, except to say that it might not do well in other evaluations, and they want to demonstrate that the Maverick that can also do better math, or I mean, the coding is apparently not great on Llama, and that's what a lot of people are a little upset about. But maybe there was just, in terms of reasoning, it was
the ability to use it for coding is not good, or
those are some of the reviews. The reviews are that Llama 4 is not a great coding LLM, and that is, there's a lot of expectations now because the field has moved forward so fast that it's got to do a lot of different things, especially if it wants to compare itself to models like DeepSeek and ChatGPT 4 or 5 or 4.0. Google's Gemini Flash 2.5 is great. It's really good. In fact, many folks are saying that it's probably Google's best step forward. In fact, in the quick hit that Sarah did, demonstrating that Gemini is now going to have these multimodal capabilities, they should just go back and record the demo that they did a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that they can now do before they were lying. Now they can actually do it, and that is maybe
good. That'll happen
where
for
they
Llama
should be.
4. Maybe Llama, just needs 2 more years to fulfill on the actual Chatbot Arena.
It does make you wonder where Meta is on this. And part of the things that people were frustrated by is that the 3 versions that they put out, one is very much a competitor to Google's Flash, which is a small model that has gotten a lot of really good publicity. The other is more like DeepSeek. And then the biggest one is a competitor to 4.0, although that is not fully out yet for people. And what I know, a lot of the open source, when I was reading some of the open source lamentations about this, they're like, wait a minute, why are you trying to do stuff like these other guys? Like, make a thing that you're really good at. Make something that is good and can run cheaply and can be there for the betterment of the community. Otherwise, I think there might be a bit of a fear that Meta is going to take whatever data they have and just start to build their own things with it, which I think has always been the end goal for them.
Oh, definitely. That's why Justin had to prevaricate about it being open source, because it's open license, because Meta has a few stipulations that prevent you from using it if it's going to compete with Meta too well.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. I think we are due for an LLM eval reckoning. I think that we need new evals. I think that the evals need to be pretty specific. I think that we're at a point now where it shouldn't just be math and reasoning. Like we should be looking at almost occupational specific evals. Like how many of these medical charts can you process? How many of these customer tickets can you clear? Like let's create evaluations that give a little bit more of a real world sense, as opposed to how well can you do if all the chatbot arena people are kicking you around?
Can you beat the best chess player in the world?
Well, we do have those.
Right. But, it's like that doesn't apply to all that many people. Applies to a few.
Yes. Aside from chess players, there's only so many.
Your LLM prowess. But otherwise, yeah, I think a lot of that real world stuff. I mean, this feels to me like the conversation we've been having for years of like, well, what kind of processor do you have in your computer? Okay. I might have the same processor. Yeah, no, I get you. Or, oh, interesting. That isn't a processor that I would use, or, that's not a laptop that I would have bought. And, they're very similar. They do very similar things. These all do very similar things. Yes, some models are better at one thing and the other, and we're still in those early days of figuring out what that is. And all of the companies behind these models are trying to figure out, okay, well, if we're lagging in a certain area, let's figure out how to lag less. And, it all just feels like the same thing all over again. But now we're talking AI.
Yeah, it's very similar to chip benchmarks. I mean, Roger, you've followed that for years.
Yeah,
right?
and it's definitely one of those things where you do have so many actors in that space that there's a few. For example, there's a couple I won't call out, but there's a couple of benchmark sites that a lot of people who do benchmarking often call out for being a little weighted to one particular company's products versus the other. And so what you have is you have a dozen or so, and people generally can get a broad consensus of this is a top performing chip, this is not such a top performing chip, and so you can kind of gauge on at least because there are so many on the veracity of the actual information. Are LLMs in that space yet where you do have a multitude of different third party places that do sort of
yeah. Oh no, yeah. I mean, these are all third party evals. The question is, are they good? I would say otherwise, are they helpful? I mean,
that's what I was thinking is that we don't use the same benchmark for chips and processors that we used 20 years ago because they had to evolve and people learned to game them. And so we have now gotten to a point where, for the most part, we know which benchmarks to trust and what to think of them, like Roger was saying. We and I think, Justin, what you're saying is we need to get there with LLMs too.
Yeah, and I just think that we're rapidly at a point where evaluations have largely been there for people that really, really care about AI development or are looking at the frontier models to see how far they can push ahead. I think a lot of these models have long since passed what a fair interpretation of like the Turing test, for example, would be. And now the question is, it's like, okay, well, can you have a model like some of these deep research models that are as good as a grad student? Like at that point, can it be as good of a PhD? Can it be as good as somebody who is an expert on physics? That kind of stuff. And I think those are interesting. And obviously there are computational elements that you can check for in terms of math and reasoning, but where we're emerging is an entire consumer class of people that just want to understand, how does this plug in for me? How do I use something here? Mm-hmm. And in that case, I think that there are evaluations that are probably going to be better off on like, hey, how well does this sort spam email? How well does this sort your calendar? How well does it sort things that on the average a human, a normie would actually like to interact with?
Mm-hmm. And I think we're still, I mean, somebody asked me just the other day, they were like, how would I like make my, I'm trying to get a job. How would I run all that information through ChatGPT? Like you have people who are like, it's a prompt and you say like, what's the weather today? Because it's very Google search-esque, right? It's like people are like, I don't know, I'll just like ask it and see what it says. It is such a deeper tool. But again, you have to know how to use the tool. Well, we all try to recycle and extend the life of our outdated technology. I know I do, when possible. But there is an entire business around it in India. Roger has more thoughts.
Yeah, so The Verge has a great story about that focuses on a lot of these small, individually owned tech shops in metropolitan locations across India that are essentially creating new laptops from bits and pieces of other laptops, so different models from different manufacturers. Many of these machines are made from parts that people threw away because they considered it to be obsolete. And they are taking, not just like, I'm taking the hard drive, I'm taking the RAM, they're taking the components, they're taking the diodes, they're taking capacitors, they're taking out some of the IC, the chips on it. For example, USB chips, you would actually just unsolder and pull it off the board. Diodes, motherboards, all those elements, and they're literally just kind of putting these back onto new machines that they can sell to a segment of the population. They can't afford the latest and greatest, and so it provides a very valuable commodity to these people, which is a usable technology. But also, it keeps a lot of this stuff from being just dumped into a landfill somewhere and being reused. So it got me to thinking how everyone else kind of upcycles and recycles a lot of the old tech. For example, I use a lot of my old routers that are just obsolete, but that their radios still work. So whether it's an N router or a Wi-Fi 5 router, I just enable. I literally turn them into access points and I plug them into my router. So I use them as very, very strong access points. I also do things like take the power bricks from my old laptops and I use it to power. I have a little mini Class D amplifier that I use to power that with. So I was going to ask the rest of you: are there any things that you have done with your old technology so it's just not taking up garbage landfill space?
I mean, I've got I got a new monitor that I use for my office, which I'm using now. My previous monitor, perfectly good. I'm trying to figure out, what do I do with it? I mean, it's basically a TV screen, right? Like I could plug like an old Mac Mini into that or something, and make it good again. Nothing wrong with it. This one just happens to be larger, so this is what I'm using now. But it's just sitting on my floor, wanting love.
Yeah, I've definitely done that with old PCs, the old desktop PCs, turn them into like media center PCs.
Yeah.
It's become less and less necessary than it used to be. But for the longest time, there were things that I wanted to watch on a TV screen that I could only get through a website, or it was easier through a website. So having a desktop computer connected to the television has been a useful thing for me. And when you're just using a web browser, it just needs to be able to get decent internet connectivity securely, get updates and all of that. So yeah, I've still got a 10-year-old Mac Mini connected to the TV. It's been a while since we used it, but it is the thing we use when we need a website.
There was an iPad that I had from way back in the day. I think I initially bought it when I was still running the scavenger hunts for the Go game, but it had just kind of floated around the house and I'd used it for varying different tasks, but it's very, very old and it can barely run the new apps and stuff like that. But in our new world as parents, you have a lot of different apps, and the apps by and large are like pretty lightweight. Just tracking apps for feeding and diapers and stuff like that, but also for our nanny cam that we have over our darling baby daughter's bed. And so now that iPad has essentially just become our resource hub for all things baby. And it was very, very helpful when we had a nanny here before we could get Bella into daycare, because that way we weren't asking her to download a bunch of apps. We weren't asking her to log into a bunch of other stuff. We had it all in one little folder, and so she could track everything that needed to be tracked. And then now it's just the thing that we watch her when she goes to sleep at night.
It does feel like some of the older tech, and mileage varies, of course. It's like, I mean, I've got old iPhones that I don't even think that they would boot up if I tried really hard. I don't know. I haven't tried in a while, but there are certain sort of like, oh, this used to be my everything. Like, Tom, you're talking about your old Mac Mini. I've got my old Mac Mini. I'm gesturing behind me because it's up there somewhere. But it's like there's nothing wrong with it. It just started to get like a little slow. But to do one specific thing, or maybe like two or three, instead of like my whole job, all day, every day with a million tabs open and all these different instances running. That computer is perfectly fine. Like, there's no reason to throw it out. I want to recycle it.
I tend to just use tech until I have to replace it versus repurpose it as often. So I've got a lot of old things that are still in service. Like, I have an iPad that I use for sound effects sometimes. Things like 10 years old now, but still supported.
It's weird because like I have hard drives all the way going back to like 2007 floating around, and every once in a while I need a new magnet for the refrigerator, so I'll take that hard drive and I will open it and I will pull out the magnets because those things are super strong and they're great. So instead of like one of the,
wow, that's a fun DIY hack.
It holds up. It'll hold up to like 3 pounds, like on the side of my fridge. It's great. Like, I put 2 of those.
I need to buy you more refrigerator magnets. Is what this tells me.
Actually, no, you don't, Tom, because Roger already has them.
No, because Roger's out here shucking hard drives for magnets.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
don't buy them for me. I know where they are.
I should have bought you one from Tokyo. I'm so sorry.
It's a 500 gigabyte hard drive. It won't hold, enough of what I have stored. So I will like just once in a while just a board, or for example, I had 2 hard drives that died because I had them for like 12 years, and they worked up until like maybe a couple of years ago. So I have them ready. So when I need those magnets, I'll pop them open. I can pull them out. The platters will make good discs for something.
Coasters.
Coasters. I think we had someone on the show recently who talked about a friend of theirs who took their old TV, like a big screen HDTV died, and they figured out how to take out the backlighting out of it with the frame, and they just hung it on the wall, so it's both the source of lighting and a piece of wall art in one thing. So they're reusing it, but not in the way that you would generally consider. And I always thought that was a very neat idea.
Hey, big thanks to Pepe in Mexico for giving us the super chat there. That's really cool.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
And
glad to keep you informed. This reminds me do you remember the story, I think it was back in December, of the guy who would pull out the cells from laptop batteries, from old laptop batteries? Sometimes he would just get them at Goodwill or Salvation Army or something real cheap. And he was powering his house. Apparently he has powered his house for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
By just taking, almost depleted old laptop batteries, but using the cells to get just a little bit out of them. Yeah.
I mean, that is resourceful. I'm into it.
I will say that a cursory search on Amazon.com found a magnet that will hold 14 pounds, a pack of 4 of them for $6.99 available on Prime.
Yeah, that's $6.99.
So what you're saying is I should just no, but it's not that I had to spend it to use it as storage, but then it became obsolete, so I might as well use something else with it. Yeah. So what you're saying is I should spend the $6, spend the money on more polluting fuel.
That's not what he's saying.
No, that is. That's exactly. No. He got me exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. Yes.
Oh, no, I
nailed it.
Roger, pull apart the processor, put some magnets on your fridge.
It's not the processor, it's the hard drive.
I'm saying you should do it. I'm saying that you should do it because there is, in all honesty, a reward that comes along with having an ingenious solution to something like that. And obviously, if you are somebody who very much cares about the environment, then that is another reason to do it. I'm just also pointing out that 14 pounds. $7.
You know what? It's I replace my own faucets when
my child can be hung on the refrigerator.
Who needs to hang something that heavy on their fridge?
I mean, Tom,
14.
You don't know.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Maybe it's
a baby. That's
vape,
number one.
or
Yeah,
a
exactly.
snack,
Small baby.
a snack pack.
Okay. Yeah.
You fill it with like Rice Krispie treats, so you'll have an easy to go pouch as you're going out the door. My kitchen's on the way out the door, so I can just.
No,
Well,
I think
I don't know.
I
I mean,
actually think using the hard drive magnets it's a little bit of work to get them out of there, so maybe it's not efficient, but it reduces
It's all of
waste
3
and they're
minutes of
perfectly
my
useful.
life.
I was more going like, why would you spend $7 to get a 14-pound holding magnet when you can spend $1 to get
Four
one that
of them.
says California?
4 of them. You get $7.
Because
gets
it's
you
not
4
as strong of a
14-pound
magnet,
magnets.
Tom.
But why do you need that
Magnets,
strong
how do
of a
they
magnet?
work? No one
Yeah.
knows.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
That's true.
It's a miracle.
Yeah. Well, another miracle is the fact that Dan Campos is with us today from Noticias Tecnología Express,
Sí.
who with another news update from Mexico. See.
This week in tariff-related news for the automotive sector, Nissan announced it will halt orders from the United States for its Infiniti QX50 and QX55 SUVs. The decision was made following tariff announcements by the US President Donald Trump regarding vehicles assembled outside the country. Meanwhile, Volvo announced an investment of up to $1 billion in its plant in Nuevo León, aiming to create 2,000 jobs focused on truck manufacturing, with operations expected to begin in 2026. Finally, Stellantis announced it will lay off 900 workers across 5 facilities in the United States and will temporarily pause production at its assembly plants in Mexico, located in Toluca, and in Canada, located in Windsor. The company's COO for the Americas, Antonio Filosa, said in a letter that the company continues to evaluate the medium and long-term effects of these tariffs on our operations. For more details about this and more news, check this week's Noticias de Tecnología Express. Back to you, amigos.
Thank you, Dan, for that. And you could just look up NTX if you're looking for Spanish language tech news. Dan does a great job with it.
Indeed.
Remember, you can send in your comments too. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. We love to get your emails. Send them to us now. Do it.
We do.
Right.
Early and often. Yay. Also, thanks to you, Justin Robert Young, for being with us today. Let folks know where they can keep up with your latest.
If you would like to hear myself and Andrew Main discuss AI, you can get the attention mechanism anywhere that you find podcasts.
Anywhere?
Anywhere.
Wow.
Anywhere at all?
That
You
feels
can
like
listen to
I
it
don't
at
know,
the
like
top
almost like a
of,
global economy.
Of
Top
the
of a
Kyoto
mountain,
Tower?
bottom of the sea. Yeah.
Well, during the show, you, and I mean you, have been submitting titles at dtns.showbot.tv. It is the place to go. There's the way to do it automatically in our Discord and our Twitch chat, or you can just go to dtns.showbot.tv anytime you want. Submit one, vote on the ones. That's where you got to do the voting. Clinton Woodward suggested we call it the Daily Coffee News Show because we talked so much about coffee. Howard Yermish said that we discussed literally millions and millions of superlatives.
That's funny.
And everything is skull emoji on Bluesky. Screaming, crying, throwing up, and not reading the room from C-Spawn.
That feels apropos. Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT, is this baseball? From Cornpone Telephone. I knew it was baseball. I was just trying to figure out what team.
What kind of baseball?
Yes, what
Like
flavor? of baseball.
who are we looking at?
I want my $2 magnet.
Better off dead. I love the
Yep.
reference.
Boom shakalaka, back to English. There we go. Anyway, Roger, thank you for collating these for us. Sarah, what did we go with?
Tom, I'm glad you asked. We went with Got Jokes, Social Media Doesn't, from Fred819.
Not bad, Fred. Not bad.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Some social media does, but much of it does not. Where you're just like, once again, I have to explain my joke. Although the best jokes are the ones you have to explain.
Oh, yeah. No, that's what makes them funny.
Yeah,
when you
because you're like,
explain
no,
at
no,
length.
here's why it's funny. Sit
all
down,
famous
sit
stand-up
down.
comedians
I don't know.
will tell you that.
I don't get it. Why?
See, you were expecting that the chicken had a reason, like, going to a restaurant, but the unexpectedness
The
is
chicken's
It just was crossing the road to get to the other side.
The first baseman's name is Chicken Cross the Road.
But what was on the other side?
Third base. No one knows. It's like magnets.
But so why is that funny? Oh my
I mean, it's like a car that runs on water. You mean
over and over. I just don't get your jokes.
Yep. And you never will.
No.
Because they're not funny.
That's the Tom promise.
That's I promise to you. Big thanks to Pepe in Mexico again for the super chat. Muchas gracias for keeping us informed in a fun way that even makes us look smart. Thank you from Mexico. Thank you, Pepe. Muchas gracias yourself. Also, big thanks to everybody who follows us on Twitch. We got Lemon Lee resubscribing for the 69th month at Tier 1. Too late for a hype train. Never too late, Lemon Lee. Tsandayu resubscribed for the 58th month. Jaris01, brand new subscriber. Welcome, Jaris01. Zoe brings bacon with some bits. Churros y palomitas resubscribed for the 33rd month. Technique gave us a shout out 3 days ago. And I just want to mention that. Thank you for the shout out, Technique. Thank you to the folks watching on LinkedIn as well. Thank you everybody for supporting us at patreon.com/DTNS.
Indeed. And if you're a DTNS supporter, and you know who you are, we'd love for you to show your support for us physically, literally, maybe. You've got lots of good stuff to choose from at dailytechnewsshow.com/store. A mug, a t-shirt, mouse pad, for example. Everything with our new DTNS Live logo, which is very fun. We would love to see you out in the wild and give you a high five and thank you for supporting us. They're all great looking ways to support us and our show. So send us your pics of yourself in our shirts. We're using our mugs. We're using our mouse pad. If you so desire, that would be super fun.
Appropriately or inappropriately. We don't care.
I mean, be inappropriate if you want. Just let us know what we can share with.
Wearing a mug on your
show.
foot, that's fine. We don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's MIDI appropriate. I think, is how they say that. Yeah, mugs on feet. But
No
feedback
jokes,
at dailytechnewsshow.com is a great way to share what you love with us, and thank you in advance. You can watch us live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That is 2000 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We're back doing it all again tomorrow with Shannon Morse joining us, talking about the new AI capabilities with Gemini. Talk to you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.